So please be aware that this will be posted on the PCPB website and our YouTube channel for the public to view. So the meeting is called to order. I really want to thank you all for joining us today. We've got a couple visitors here, Ben and Pat and DK. He's the chair of the Midway Planning Group. And so he's here joining us. And we just have to do a little bit of parliamentary administrative things to get through the agenda, and then we'll start our action item going forward. So again, my name is Mandy Havlick. I want to go ahead and ask if everyone's reviewed the meeting minutes, if there's any edits or feedback for those meeting minutes for our meeting in April. Oh, Margaret jumped off. Okay.
Are we doing the minutes?
Mandy, did you
Yeah,
send
sorry, Margaret like jumped out and
out?
stuff.
Did you send the April minutes out? I do not have them loaded up on our page, so I'm not sure.
I believe I included them with the agenda.
They're on the
I'm
email.
sorry.
Yeah, on the email.
I'll put them up when I get a chance. Maybe not right now, but
Okay. Right. Sorry about that. So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Thank you. And all in favor? Raise of hand. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Is there any non-agenda public comment at this time? Okay, moving forward then, we can go on to our first action item. And so I did send it out to the entire board, the letter. This is a traffic request that's being brought forth. Matt Shalis wrote this letter, and I think it's really just something that's going to be necessary to reinforce what's already existing along the West Point Loma corridor. You know, I know that there's a lot going on in Midway, and so this is really just something to help expand those facilities and connect them and make our bike network more efficient. So I'll go ahead and just open up the floor for discussion, and whoever wants to go can go.
I'll just say that I support this letter and Matt's letter. I'll motion to support it. And I'll just say, as a bike rider, this is super dangerous connection that he actually commutes daily. I commute it when I visit Midway area. I try to avoid that area personally. But as you're coming as a bike rider, you're in a bike lane and you come up to the intersection and you're basically forced into sharrows and sharing the lane. And it's just a very, very tough merge. And a bike box just gives that awareness to drivers that you're able to get in front of the lane, get in front of the queue, and get that time to get across that intersection in a safe facility that is on West Point Loma just ahead. So I'll leave it to that. And I see DK's hands up. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul, go ahead.
hey, could I screen share? I wanted to put up a Google Earth on it.
Sure. Let me see. Try doing it. It should, see if it allows you.
It says host disabled participants.
Oh, did it put? Okay, let me change it. Not showing. Okay.
Okay, I guess it's showing. Is it showing me now?
I just did it. Yeah. So try
Okay,
that.
let me try it again.
Try it
doesn't-
again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Screen share. Here we go. This is what we had before the bike lanes went in. This is before 2018. And I can go up here and show you what happened if this will allow me. The time frame. So since they did that, they came back in and added these yellow, brand new, you can see the white median there. I do a lot of walking down in that area, and I couldn't believe that they were putting those yellow new things in without widening that median. And in fact, I'm sure I sent this in as a get it done. And of course it didn't go anywhere. I can't find to get it done because I think they purged them after a year or two. It was done like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I'm just really upset that they don't follow through. And it's kind of like you maybe have one department that doesn't talk to another department. If I was riding my bike there on that screen share there, I would be going over that pedestrian area to go from the bike lane over to the other bike lane. It's ridiculous the way it is now, and they could have made it better. Now, it would have required them to actually move the mast arm for that traffic signal. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but it kind of gives me the impression that what they try to do with the bike lanes in San Diego is they're trying to do it on the cheap. It seems like every time there's either money at Sandag or a clean slate when they redo the street, they're like trying to do something, which is fine, but they should put money into something that works right off the bat. It just, I support it, but it's ridiculous the way that it had to get to this point. It should have been done right the first time.
I appreciate that, Paul. And I would agree with that on both ends of the connection, because again, the whole goal of it is to increase the efficiency and get more people out on their bikes. And if it's just that one stretch, it's not connected really, or it doesn't allow for safe facilities. So I think expanding it is going to be helpful. DK, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I realize I'm a visitor here today, and so I don't, I'm the one I sort of step out of my lane, but I did just want to share that obviously this intersection happens to be at the intersection of both the Midway Pacific Highway Community Planning Group planning area, as well as the Peninsula planning area. So Matt had reached out to me a week or two ago to let me know that this meeting was happening, that this letter was being drafted, and asked us as a planning group to support as well. So I'm here just to share that we are planning on taking this up at our meeting next week. We typically meet the third Wednesday of the month. You guys meet the third Thursday, just because of how the calendar shook out. You meet this week, we don't meet until next week. So I just want to, like I said, come share, get a better understanding as to what the discussion was about this specific intersection. And then ultimately what my plan is to do is to docket an item for our agenda next week to effectively just co-sign what the outcome of this support letter is, assuming that both this traffic committee and then ultimately your full board on Thursday approve it as well.
Thank you, DK. I really appreciate that. And I think that, that collaboration amongst our chairs, and our groups do help, get that big umbrella approach. So the city can say, hey, it's not just those people whining. We've got a group of them.
Like they said, there's strength in numbers, and I thought there's no better intersection to talk about than this specific one, because it's 2 blocks from where I'm sitting now, and ultimately it happens to be sort of shared between our two communities.
Yeah. And one thing I learned today on the call on the city council meeting, I didn't realize that in the county, they say that those two intersections, that intersection is one of the most, that area is one of the most I think the most highly traveled area in the city. Is that correct, DK, that they were saying?
I heard someone from the public say that. I don't know who that person was. She said that it was Rosecrans and Sports Arena, Rosecrans and Midway, and then Rosecrans and Sports Arena. I don't know who that
I was like, who is that?
To me. That's news to me. There's no citation of where that comes from.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, we do know that those are busy intersections, but she said that those were the 2 most in the entire city. Maybe.
Okay. I was wondering about that for sure, but something needs to be done there.
Agreed.
Margaret?
Thank you, DK. I always support when our neighboring communities are working together, so thank you. I will second that motion that Nicole made. I just want to 100% agree with Paul. I walk that neighborhood almost every day with my mom, and I 100% agree with his comments. So I think the letter will help.
Okay, so now we have a motion on the floor to approve it as is. So Nicole was the first, and then Margaret seconded that, correct? Is that what you just did, Margaret?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there any more discussion? Is there any other inputs? And DK, you're always, outside of voting, but I encourage all participation from anyone. I mean, the fact that you show up is just enough. That gets you, you're in the door.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I'm double dipping. I'm still, CPG reform is on the other screen right now, but I'm here for this.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. All right.
Can
Well,
I make a comment?
Sure.
I I might have just jumped really ahead of myself and made that motion really quick. And I appreciate Margaret for commenting and DK and Paul for their comments. And I just want to like note that this letter is for a bike box, which makes the biking a little safer. But as Paul mentions, it's like that whole intersection is a huge mess. And DK, I've been to your community meetings before, and that one is that intersection is always highlighted. And I want to support this letter as a low interim request, but I really think it's like the whole corridor from there to the new bridge. And you know, that new bridge is probably a year out from being open to really functioning correctly. And cities tried to do some paint markings on the on-ramps. We've had discussions with Caltrans because it's really dangerous up there. Perhaps maybe for another follow-up, we could really like maybe ask for better. And with DK Midway community, just really like making the city, like Paul says, we're just asking for like little crumbs, right? Like a little bike box, a little extra paint. And it should have been done with the project itself originally, with the recycling project. And that's why, so just so you guys know, they're doing these projects on resurfacing efforts. And so give the opportunity to get like funding for curb ramp, full treatment of really, like Paul said, like holistic project. So, you know, if you really could dig down and like think creative, really innovative, like what could we do at that intersection to really tee it up, to stop that free right, to get a roundabout, who knows, right? I want us to like, I support the letter, I support the motion to get this low treatment, but I really think it needs to be a bigger discussion as that corridor to the bridge to this intersection.
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to step out of turn, but I definitely just want to say for the record, I'm happy, Nicole, to work with you on whatever sort of combined next steps we can take as far as, you know, the action today. Sure, this letter, I think it's a good initiation of a wider conversation. One thing I'll also flag, just so you guys all know, the city's budget process has been sort of changed a little bit. They moved forward and have elongated the overall, I guess, process. So there still will vote on the final budget next year in June, but some of these budget memos from council members are due by the end of September this year. So we got like 2-3 weeks until the first round of budget memos are due. And so I only bring that up to help kind of identify an avenue for us to maybe potentially take that action that's more effective, Nicole, to your point of what are we really talking about? Some of these other like sort of more impactful capital improvements that ideally can only be done once and sort of done completely neatly the first time around.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that regarding the, regarding the new bridge, if you walk down there, you're seeing that there's 2 lanes going towards the bridge from our side. And then there's another lane, and now that's kind of blocked off, and they're changing things around there. So we don't know what exactly they're going to have at the end of that, except you do know if you are like walking around a bicycle, it's very tough, or it can be tough to get across the loops onto the freeway. And especially the one on the other side where people are coming, they're going on to 8 East from across the bridge, or they, you know, mostly coming from PB or something. That traffic is moving so fast that a bike or a pedestrian has real issues trying to get across there. So I don't know what they're going to end up with in the long run, but it's going to be a concern, especially with these probably more lanes, and there'll be more speed because it's going to be a wider street with more lanes.
Can I respond to Paul?
Yes.
Because we have actually, Caltrans has a bicycle advisory committee and presented some designs for that area that you're talking about. It's 2 free on-ramps from Mission Beach. Yep, the bikers are going to come from a class 1 bikeway over this beautiful new bridge and have to cross. The city and Caltrans are working on an RFB, rapid flashing beacon, that stops the traffic if a bicyclist is there and pushes a button to cross there, or a bike or a walker or any active commuter. So just an FYI that they are looking at that intersection. I think it's really the corridor, yeah, as it extends up to this intersection, and the paint treatment that's going to go in there. and the intersection itself. Is there any help for it? I don't know.
Awesome, thank you. Well, we do have a motion on the floor. If there's no other inputs, I'd like to go to a vote. So all in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, awesome, unanimous. So yay. I love these so that when we go to the main board meeting, you know, they know that we're all for it. So awesome. So that passes. Moving forward is action item number 2. A few years ago, we were approached by the city to give recommendations for a crosswalk over adjacent to Peninsula Park to allow pedestrians to cross over Chatsworth in a safe manner. And the second letter that Matt also prepared was to request that the city expedite and push up the funding for this project. And so I did provide everyone with the letter for that request. I'd like to open it up for discussion at this time.
Mandy, I just have one question. Where, which street off of Peninsula Park?
It's, you know,
The one where they put the,
it's not the one where the turn is into, it's the one
second-
coming out. Yeah,
Okay.
not Hyacinth, but
Yeah.
the other side. So,
Okay.
I personally, I am very supportive of this request. I live in, we all live in that area. We are all aware of how dangerous that area is, especially people coming to and from the Rosecrans, the Liberty Station area. There is a crosswalk there along Browning and
Browning.
Chatsworth, but that's almost a half mile. People have to walk almost a half mile to gain access to that. So it would be right adjacent to Peninsula Park. And we as a board have approved it. The city actually came to us asking for our input. Really what we're asking is, hey, we see a need here and we'd like the city to expedite that in the funding request. And so that's what I am in support of this request. It's something that's been on our radar. We've approved it. Anything to push the city to do more and invest in safe facilities is, I'm all for that. So
I'll make a motion on the letter
sure, go ahead, Margaret.
since we've talked about it quite a bit.
I'll second it.
A motion to what? Approve?
A motion
Margaret?
to, yes, approve the letter to be sent to the board or
Okay.
whatever.
All right. And then Tina seconded that.
Was
Okay.
Nicole.
that was Nicole, but I do.
Oh,
second.
Nicole. Okay, sorry. And then with that, can I get, if there's no more
Matt writes
discussion?
pretty amazing letters, by the way.
Yeah, he does a really good job. I'm very grateful for both him and Nicole and their letters that they bring to the board. It's really helpful to have that help. So thank you so much for that. Paul, can you take us off the
Yes,
screen?
surely. Yes,
So I
I was
can
gonna-
see everyone. All
Yeah.
right. Is there any more discussion? Paul, go ahead.
Yes, I know when this came before us, we were talking about the width of the street. And they were gonna, I think, talking about possibly putting ramps, like a slight ramp up for cars and then a flat and then a ramp down. And then there
Yes.
was discussion about how wide the street would be, and there was like a funneling going on, which could create issues, not with pedestrians, but maybe with people riding bikes, that they would not, would it be wide enough for them to go in that lane, or would they have to go in the lane, or would they have a little room on the side? I don't know where that came out, or if it's been finalized or not.
We have approved our request we have approved the request from the city. I believe it was approved in October of 2000. That's what, I'll pull up the letter and see what. just refresh my memory on everything and see
I
if there
do-
was any discussion with was it the bulb out where,
Like an edge lane, and so yeah, bicyclists kind of like have to merge in, kind of like where they do at roundabouts. They merge with traffic to go through, and I know that we kind of asked that as a concern. I don't know if the city made any changes or what their designs look like to date. But if we were interested, I'm sure we could probably get.
so looking at the letter, we did bring it up in the letter, Paul. So we approved it, but what we said is the PCPB is in support of the resident initiated request for traffic mitigations to be installed on the corner of Chatsworth Boulevard and Peninsula Drive. And then it says the PCPB would recommend that the city investigate whether the bulb out curb as outlined in enclosure 1 could be rounded softly so that a bicyclist could access the bulb out area if unable to merge safely into the narrowed travel lane. The proposed pedestrian led traffic beacon and associated crosswalk will help make crossing Chatsworth Boulevard safer for pedestrians and allow greater community access to Plimosa. So if you go to the PCPB website, that is there. And
I'm good
there's
with
also
that.
an enclosure on the second page with the city's design of it as well. So is there any other inputs?
I'm
or-
okay with that.
Are you good? All right. Thank you, Paul, for bringing that up. I appreciate that. All right. So we've got a motion on the floor. All in favor of approving this letter as is, raise your hand.
I
All right, awesome. All right. Well, we are good to go. It passes unanimously. So, all right. Now we're on to our last letter that we're going to be proposing, and that came from Nicole. And this is a request to install a diverter along Evergreen, which is a known and it's already a designated bike facility, right? Is that our bike path for Point Loma Evergreen? And so Nicole, you have the floor. You're more than welcome to present and bring this letter. If you need me to share the letter, let me know.
Hopefully you guys have all seen it and are a little bit aware of Evergreen. So Evergreen was designated as a bicycle boulevard probably 6 years ago. And in that time, the city kind of has tried to evaluate it to reduce calming of traffic. Unfortunately, it kind of went through the debacle, and we don't have to go into all the history of advisory lanes and if that was a good treatment or not. But being that it is a bicycle boulevard, and so I guess the main thing is that the traffic when you're going down Nimitz and you want to go out to the west, out towards Shelter Island, anywhere out there, Evergreen is the bicycle boulevard, so it's the designated route for cyclists. If you want to go downtown, you're going to go straight through Nimitz, and you have a conflict zone there with vehicles. So vehicles turning at that corner onto Evergreen is a danger to that movement. We've also seen in the past that it's a danger to that house on the corner. So speeding actually collided into that house multiple times. So this is just an approach to actually stop the cut through traffic, which I believe some of us have been out to Evergreen and looked at traffic counts on that street and see it's such a disproportionate amount of traffic that's cutting off Nimitz. We're basically trying to avoid Rosecrans, right? So traffic on Rosecrans, so they cut through the neighborhood. So I know we have some numbers there, but it was quite significant, the westbound travelers. So this is just eliminating that making the traffic calmer through the neighborhoods and making a more peaceful neighborhood for those residences without a whole lot of infrastructure. So a diverter can be flex posts, they can be pylons, they can be bollards, they can even be planter box with a tree. So it's just diverting the traffic, but allowing other active commuters to go through that area. And if anybody has any questions, or if I didn't answer anything specifically, you have the letter. And I'll let you guys have it open for discussion.
So coming in from Nimitz, going towards, Rosecrans Harbor, you come to that turn, right? Evergreen's there, there's Lowell. I know my kids go to Dana, so I know you can drive down Lowell and that'll get some school traffic over there. So looking at the map, you're wanting to just block off the one portion of or divert the traffic so you can't make a right turn onto Evergreen.
And
Okay.
the Pacific and Evergreen right now, you cannot go eastbound. So traffic is not allowed to go that last block. Now, if you live on that last block, you still have access to it. If you live anywhere on the street, you can actually go down to Locust, make a right, go up to Evergreen and go either direction, basically one block one way, or you can drive on that street in either direction. That is not what it's doing. It's just diverting the cut through traffic off Nimitz through that to decrease the number of just not necessary trips through a neighborhood, in my opinion.
And then that's our designated bike boulevard. So again, it would enhance the safety, get the cars off, keep them on Rosecrans. And again, the access to the streets around that, I would agree with your assessment because of, like you said, the box, the grid, there's plenty of adjacent streets that they can access. Let's open it up. Oh, go ahead, Nicole. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll leave it open for anybody else.
Does anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, first of all, I was up looking at the city's website and Sandag's website, and there's no indication that Evergreen is a bike boulevard, including their 2022 PDF that you can download. Maybe it is, but they haven't put it up there. But it's not shown as a bike boulevard. Secondly, all the traffic that you are not going to move through Evergreen is either going to make a right turn up Lowell and then go up the next street to get into that neighborhood, or they're going to go down to Locust to make a right turn. And in all those cases, they're going to cross the bike lane. So I really don't see how much improvement this is. In the long run, I see that what they did, I think they botched the whole thing to try to save the house across the street. They funneled all that traffic down into one lane, which is coming right up against the bike lane. So you got left turn straights and right turn and all the bike people in that one little funneled area that they put in there. And it's just, I think that they should reassess the way they did it. They may not have had to push that bulb in so large, and they could have continued to have the bike transition. I was down there today for about 45 minutes. I saw a total of about 6 bikes in either direction, thousands of cars. The biggest problem that I saw was people trying to make a left turn onto Rosecrans from Nimitz, and that they were blocking the now single lane on Nimitz Boulevard since it's been road dieted or whatever down there. You can see on the bottom of the photo that you showed on this letter. And people are either got to go over that lane. They can't get into they can't queue up down at Rosecrans. And I just personally think they botched the entire situation that they did. They narrowed the lanes too quickly. The double lefts coming off of Rosecrans onto Nimitz in the other direction, those cars are weaving to get in very quickly because the lane goes away right away. And I looked at the timing of the across traffic coming into Nimitz westbound is not anywhere near the timing on the left turn. A bike is not going to get hit by the left turner, but they've widened that lane, put in a big buffer lane. I just don't know if they looked and figured this all the way through. So I think that your response, which is a good one, is you're responding to something that probably wasn't done right in the first place. So I don't know how we solve this problem, except them maybe reassessing. But I really don't think that putting planners, and I don't know where they would be, and would you prevent right turns from Lowell onto Evergreen or right turns from Nimitz onto Lowell? Because a lot of people want to go in that neighborhood. There's about 30 blocks of people that live that probably would be making that move. That would go up Evergreen and within the 4 or 5 blocks either make a right or a left. They're not all cut through traffic all the way through. Sometimes of the day they might be, but there's a bunch of people who live in that neighborhood who probably go straight or like a marginal right into that. So that's my view on it.
I see Margaret's hands up and Pat's.
Go ahead, Margaret.
I agree somewhat with what Paul's saying, because I do frequent that area quite a bit as well. And I myself try to assess it as of lately because of all the complaints I've been getting from, all sorts of bike cyclists and neighbors and pedestrians. There's way too much going on Nimitz right now. It's really confusing still. And I think I emailed a group about this with all the different lines. No one knows what the lines mean. And now that the poles are up in a bunch of different direction, when you hit that intersection, I think a reassessment of that area would be great. I don't know if Nicole, I don't even know what Nicole's suggestion is, that recommendation. I don't know what that thing is. I'm gonna have to look it up after, but I know Nicole is a seasoned expert when it comes to safety on the roads for the cyclists, so I trust her recommendation pretty highly. I just don't think that would be a solution to add even more, signs and confusion or what have you with this other function. It just seems like a circus right now for all three, pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles right now. So I think this is a major recommendation from our group. I don't know what it's going to be or what it's going to take, but we need to put some attention to it pretty quickly. And what they've done this far has improved quite a bit, all the different angles, but it's just way too much right now going on that one road before you hit the house that always gets hit.
Thank you, Margaret. Pat?
Hey, sorry. So I realized I kind of showed up as a stranger, but Matt actually invited me to come by because I'm a bike commuter who lives in the area, and he wanted me to speak about the first issue, but there was unanimous support, and I didn't really feel like I needed to be another voice in the crowd. But I stuck around because I live about 2 blocks away from what we're talking about right now. And the biggest problem that I see with it is the speed people take that turn at. It's effectively a slip lane, and so they come through and they just fly down it. And there's absolutely no need to go directly from Nimitz to Evergreen. So I am a person who lives in that suburb area you're referring to, and it's a 50-50 crapshoot every day, whether I take Evergreen or Locust. It just doesn't make a difference to me at all as a driver. And there's just no need to make that connection at all. In context of the bollards, I moved down from Oakland, so I'm guessing this is something that I've seen a bunch of up there, where it's basically kind of like a big planter that sits in the middle. And it's something where if you're going slow, you could kind of like weave around it, and it works for like emergency vehicles and things to still have access through the area, but it doesn't allow cars or general traffic to sort of fly through. It's basically just a big thing in the middle of the road that kind of says, hey, you can't go here as a general vehicle, but you can still move stuff through in exceptional situations. Is that kind of what you're picturing here? Because that makes a lot of sense to me. And just the other thing to talk about really quickly is the other issue I'd like to bring up eventually in the long run is getting from the southwest side of Nimitz onto the new bike lanes is the better part of impossible right now. It's because of that intersection. There's no way to go from Evergreen to northeast direction on Nimitz. If you try to go across Locust, there's a concrete divider that's about a half a foot wide. So it's too skinny for you to stand on with a bike. I've done it. It's not a good idea. And there's no way to just go right across it. And the last option is to kind of like go up the sidewalk on Rosecrans. In that case, you're trying to cross Rosecrans and Nimitz where people whip around that right corner. So there's just no way. So like part of the reason I think there's no bike traffic there is like I'd be there way more often, but I'm a person who bikes to a degree of confidence that's probably unsafe for my own good, and I'm not willing to go over that. So it's mostly just such a structural failure there that you're not going to see bike traffic, not because there isn't demand for it, but because the infrastructure is so aggressively hostile at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other inputs at this time? I'd like to make a motion to, oh, go ahead, Nicole.
Well, first, I would love to see all full support for this letter. So before I get too carried away with motion, I want to make sure we get the support because I don't want to take it to the full board without all your support. So if it takes another 2 months to convince you guys, I'll happily meet somebody out on site. I guess what I I also just want to stress is for OB families and even Point Loma, when I go through OB to go out that way, Nimitz, to go, my daughter used to work over in Shelter Island, to just get off Nimitz and not have to go down to Rosecrans, not even to have to get to Locust, is like, I can breathe. I can go on to Evergreen and have a peaceful ride through the neighborhood. So I thank Pat for being here because you're a resident down in that area. So, you know, the cut through traffic is just what we're trying to avoid, right? So, and Angela is not here. Angela was actually somebody who I met down there as we were looking at the whole debacles of advisory lanes, you know, because that would have just calmed the traffic and it was a different type of treatment. But it's really about trying to make this facility just safer for people walking, biking, living in the area, and to eliminate this cut through traffic. So I remember she has some numbers and I'd love to see her numbers, but it was like 60 to 5. Tina, maybe you recall?
Yeah, Tina, weren't you there?
Huge.
Yeah.
It was like 60 going the westbound and 5 going the other way. So like
Yes.
that's a lot of.
Kind of vaguely what I remember, but it's something similar to that. I would have to look it up to exact numbers, but you're pretty close.
And counted so many, and you just watched them. They're coming flying off Evergreen, and I'm glad Pat mentioned that. It's just this huge free right that just flies. That, you know, and I have actually known people from Bike SD that are board members that actually have come. They do a loop and they do Nimitz, and they almost got killed like right when that was happening. So Margaret, to your point with the confusion, the paint striping and the flex posts have taken a very, very long time to get implemented over, I want to say 2-3 months. So that does not help with confusion. So, you know, like it doesn't help with like what we're supposed to do and seeing new things. Give it another 6 months and it'll just be like, oh, okay, this is all there and this is supposed to be. So yeah, I'll stop there.
I want to make a motion in support of this. And the reason why is, again, I do frequent that area a lot. And I agree with the assessment that that right-hand turn would not impede or cause any backup in any way. And again, it takes, you know, you said, I take a breath of fresh air. I can relax. I can't imagine anyone trying to navigate Rosecrans, trying to access Shelter Island. And it is our bike, it is a designated bike boulevard. And Paul, I don't know, can you find that for us, Nicole? I know I've seen articles about it, but it was something that happened like 10-12 years ago, I believe.
About 6 years ago when it was originally and
What
because
does, can someone please tell me what this suggestion does? What is this gonna do? Because I don't know what this is.
So
go ahead.
With Margaret, when you're coming from Nimitz and heading towards Harbor and Rosecrans from our community, you can make, you know, where that intersection she's talking about is, you would make a right. You can make a right turn if you're coming down Nimitz towards Rosecrans. If you hit Evergreen, you can make a right turn. The issue is that it's our bike boulevard, and the way that the design is it creates an unsafe situation there. And there is a little bit of confusion there with the new bike lanes. And so what she's
want to block that off.
She wants to just block it so that they can't make that right turn. They can still exit out of that area, but they can't. Are you gonna do the whole side? The whole thing? Yeah, they've never been able to exit. They can only make the right turn. So basically they're wanting to keep it from making that right turn. And the fear of access or lack of access has been removed because there's all these pocket streets there that they can kind of, they're not going to lose access to their front door, basically.
Okay, so now that makes better sense to me, because yeah, I don't find that safe making that right turn, because I think a long time, Nicole, a long time ago, I mentioned this, because you have the cars and the cyclists merging at the same time on that corner to try to get to the safe zone, correct?
Yeah.
So eliminating that, I think the cyclists can safely move to the next, you know, destination around that corner. Is that what you guys are trying to do?
Yes, and then just to
perfect.
increase the facility, the safety of the facility there, and keep people off of Rosecrans.
I
Plain
don't think
period.
that, I don't think
Right.
that'll affect traffic at all. If
I
anything,
don't think it will either.
will be a huge, safety guard for, everyone. But then, so the pedestrians can still cross that road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, to Pat's concerns, the city is actively actually looking at that intersection as a roundabout. It is a horrible connection if you want to try to access Nimitz the other way.
Right.
Totally understand that, but that is a longer vision and
Okay.
label that as a priority for D2.
Okay. Thank you for explaining. I just wasn't getting the right picture with the wording.
Yeah, and also, like I said, not a lot. That turn is so wide, like, what did you say, Pat? It's like a slip, or I don't know. It's just such a wide right turn. I think it's not safe for vehicles, especially if you have a top heavy vehicle. It could, you could potentially roll. So, right, Paul?
Yeah, hey, if I could screen share, I'll show you the thing here that shows that it's not on the 2022 bike map. If you don't mind, it would be over right here. And
I'm gonna believe that
it's
it's
right there. It shows there's Evergreen and there's Nimitz. It's not on there anywhere. There's very few. Now, maybe it's just missing, but
So I don't
it's
think
not there.
so. The bike maps do not have the community plans overlaid. So any kind of community planned amendments would not be overlaid onto that bike map yet, and have not yet.
Well, when's that going to happen? I mean,
When the
why
city
not?
does bicycle master plan, which is what we keep asking for. Yeah, it's a huge priority for the city. Yeah.
All right. I've even seen, and I'm not gonna, we can confirm it, but I'm like, I swear my children, like I've even seen articles in the news about it. Like it was when Faulkner was.
that's fine. I'm just saying that it ought to be correct.
Yeah, I would
They
agree
say
with you.
it's a 2022 version, and it's not there. And
And is that city bike?
it says 2222. So
What was the
I
link,
don't know what it
Paul?
takes to do that. Huh?
Can you put the link in the chat for us to take a look at?
Well, let's just go up to the bike. Let's see if I can find it here. Shoot, I got so many things up here now. It would just go to the city of San Diego. I can't find it in there. They're just put in city of San Diego bicycle map, and you'll show something and it says view the 2022 map. So you click it in and you can move all up and down the entire region if you want to see it. And it's not there. And I'm sure there's a lot of other ones that aren't there if they're not loaded, and they should be loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why they're not. I mean, doesn't
From-
San Diego have time on their hands? Maybe, I don't know.
I do hear that the sustainability and mobility department, as part of they have a mobility plan for the city of San Diego. And as part of that plan, they're overlapping all the community plan and amendments like this, overlaying it onto the bicycle master plan. But, I don't have control. But
Maybe that's why the one hand wasn't look at the other hand on Sports Arena Boulevard. And they spend all this money to put these yellow dotted things in there. That might have been replacing things that were already ramped, and they don't take care of the bike through lane. And you look at it and you say, it ain't right. And they just go ahead and press on because one guy's not looking at what the other guy's doing. It's just too bad.
big city, I know. It's frustrating.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Margaret.
All right, so Margaret seconded. Is there any more discussion?
All I can say is I can't support it. I think that the whole thing needs to be reassessed, and that that the traffic that it's going to divert is going to end up in front of bikes on one or two other movements. And if you look at what's going down at Rosecrans, any traffic that maybe could be diverted off of Rosecrans, that intersection might be a good idea, especially when you see that there's a queuing problem getting down to Rosecrans. I was there today. I could show you pictures where there was 2 blocks of cars waiting to make a left turn onto Rosecrans from Nimitz, and they were in the single lane, And to get around it, to get into the double queue lane up at Rosecrans, you had to go over this super huge thing that used to be the right lane and go around it and on it. And it just, some isn't right. And I'm not sure what the answer is.
If I can speak really briefly to the immediate issue, even to be clear, I lived here for a while, I bike a lot, and I learned this moment that Evergreen's a bike boulevard. So that's obviously a problem. But the thing here is less to me even about reducing the vehicle bike conflict as it is about stopping the vehicles from making that aggressive fast right turn onto Evergreen. There's really not much need for it. And I know the backup left you're talking about, and it doesn't really affect that particular turn. The backup left comes to about where the lane ends. The lane ends right about at Locust. And only at peak commute times, it ends up backing a little further up the single. But even there, the ability to turn right onto Evergreen wouldn't really divert traffic in a meaningful way from what I see looking at that basically every day. And so what this does is this just stops cars from going too fast into a neighborhood. And that's what's happening right now, is because you keep calling it a right turn, but frankly, it's not. It's a gentle right bank that people take at speed from Nimitz into a neighborhood. There's a stop sign there that about 10% of cars blow through. So like, it's really, really, really about slowing vehicles in that neighborhood because that's the direct and immediate hazard.
Oh, Paul, you're muted.
I assume a right turn would be allowed from, the only way you could get onto Evergreen would be to make a right turn off Lowell. And it's a one-way street.
So the way I go is down to Locust and then just back up one street. So you just go a little bit further. If you go a block further than you need to, hang a right, and then you come back up.
Well, it depends on where you're going. If you're trying to get onto Evergreen, the only way that someone could park on Evergreen in the first block would be to go down Lowell. I'd have to go around circles to get over to Lowell to then come in and make a right turn because they'd be blocked from a straight off of Nimitz, and it's a one-way street. And they just added a stop sign there at Keats to slow traffic down because we were talking about that at our meetings recently. And they took care of that, and now we want to close the street. Basically.
Yeah, so that stop sign you're talking about at Keats, that's the one that people blow through. So that's a nice idea, but it's not working. That's why we need something earlier. And I see the point now that you're talking about the right turn, because like what I would mean is that I admittedly don't go to that one block, but I'll go down to Locust, up Hugo, and then you're right, or not Hugo, I'm off a couple authors. But you can go one block.
Right and up to Willow to go into that area. So some people, instead of going straight on, depending on where they're going, and they're not all cut through traffic, they'll, instead of going through straight, they'll make a right onto Lowell and make a left on Willow, I think is the next street up, to go into that area if they're somewhere down there within a few blocks. It's hard to say who's turning where. I stood down there today and I saw 6 or 7 cars go through, and most of them went about 4 or 5 blocks and then turned one way or the other. They weren't going all the way down to Canyon.
And so I think for those people, it's no big deal to either go up to Lowell, down to Locust. You don't need to go west or out towards the water.
And both those turns run across bicyclists.
Are we talking about doing anything about the turn for?
If you're making a right turn off Nimitz onto Lowell, you're going to cross the bike lane. If you make a right turn off Nimitz to Locust, you're going to cross the bike lane. If you make a straight over to Evergreen, you're going to cross the bike lane. You want to close one of those 3.
Right. The turn on the Lowell is so tight that you go slow that you're going to see the conflict anyways. The fundamental problem is that it's too gentle of a right to have that cross. It's just the Evergreen one that needs to close. And you have 2 other options probably need to get wherever you want to go.
Well, the other thing is what it's going to look like and how it's going to work. I really don't know how you're going to put it into allow. We didn't see any pictures of putting in, something to block traffic there and allow fire guys get through there. How do you do that?
So yeah, Mandy, I will definitely supplement for Thursday some photos of some great diversions. They have them in a lot of Oregon neighborhoods, San Francisco, Berkeley. So I'll have some for Thursday.
Okay.
And then also just, it sounds like some concerns are really about residences not having access to their houses. I just want to emphasize those residents are going to be so blessed with less traffic going down their street and the safety and the joy and the less noise and the less traffic. So they'll be willing to go 1 block out of their way to have that quiet street.
If you live on Locust, there'll be more traffic, so they might not like it.
All right. Well, I do appreciate the discussion. And Pat, thank you for joining in. He kind of has a Nat vibe himself. I don't know. You can tell that they're friends, right? So,
I met him last week.
Sorry, I just don't like the
right?
idea. I think that's not the
Awesome.
solution to the problem.
Yeah.
I'm just being silly. Well, there is a motion on the floor. If there's no discussion, I would like to take it for a vote. So I put the motion out. Margaret seconded. All in favor with the raise of hands. So 1, 2, 3. And Paul, you're a no. And Tina, you're a no.
We haven't asked for opposed yet.
What?
Well, when you ask for opposed, I'll put my hand up. You asked for in favor and I didn't put my hand up.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. All in opposition. Apologies. All right. Awesome. So that's 3-2. It does pass, but Nicole will come prepared, and please present and come up with, or just kind of give an idea of what concept, would look of a diverter that would work for the area. Nothing big. But that does pass. I do want to pause. We have a visitor here. Ben, we don't get a lot of visitors, and he had reached out regarding some issues. So if you wanted to take a few minutes just to speak about why you're here, and let us know if there's a way that we could potentially help you out with the traffic safety issue.
Hey, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry, I got to drop off and head to work in a few minutes.
No worries.
I'm Ben. I live at the border of Opie and Point Loma. I'm on Etiwanda Street, just north of Voltaire. I had actually reached out to the city. I'm here because I would love the support for a stop sign request to the city council. Basically, I live on Etiwanda, and that just above that corridor of Voltaire where it goes from Catalina over to Evers. I had asked the city to evaluate for a stop sign at a few places on that stretch, which didn't really meet the city criteria for placement of a stop sign. Reached out to our city council, who was interested in potentially pursuing it, Dr. Campbell's office. But they wanted me to check with some neighborhood associations and planning groups, see if you guys would be interested in a letter of support for basically just to the city council for that stop sign. I think that the situation briefly is, as you guys probably know, that stretch from Catalina to Froud or to Evers on Voltaire can get pretty fast and quite dangerous, especially the downhill if you're westbound on Voltaire from Bolinas to Evers. Street curves a little bit, and crossing Froud there is quite dangerous. I do it with our family. I do it with the baby in the stroller probably once a day to walk over into south and up the hill, and is a pretty dangerous stretch. I think the potential interventions would be a stop sign along there, or potentially two between Bolinas and Froud. I think Froud's probably the most dangerous intersection because it's the only through street there. The other streets all dead end on Voltaire. And potentially a stop sign somewhere else, either Bolinas or maybe on Etiwanda. Both of those two intersections are sort of midway through that stretch. I don't see a lot of downside to it. I never see a lot of backup there. There's tons of backup at Catalina and Voltaire, but there's not really ever backup on that stretch. And there's already traffic lights at Evers and Catalina. So anyway, I think it'd be a nice safety intervention. I think it'd be great for the neighborhood. People cross Voltaire all the time. There's no crosswalks. There's no stop signs. There's no way to safely get across as a pedestrian or as a vehicle, especially on Froud. I don't see a lot of downside. I did pull the traffic data from the city for that area. There's been a good number of accidents on that stretch. I count 9 in the recorded data just on that stretch of Voltaire. And I count about 30 that are potentially, they're listed as Bolinas and Voltaire. Who knows if they were on Bolinas or Voltaire, but they're on that stretch with a handful of, sorry, let me pull it up actually, because I was somewhat proud of myself for doing this. There we go. So I count 30 accidents with 15 on the stretch that's very clearly on Voltaire in that stretch. So 30, maybe 15 potentially, and a handful of injuries, 9 in the last couple of years, and then 21 other injuries that are maybe like in that general area. So a good number of injuries, at least one fatality on that stretch. Not a lot of downside to the stop sign, I feel. So anyway, that's sort of my push to the city. They did a traffic study recently that didn't quite meet their criteria, but I think the
Okay.
support of some of the neighborhood would be helpful in getting Dr. Campbell's office to push for it.
Okay.
So thanks so much for having me. Sorry, I take up out of turn in the agenda, but I would love your support, or let me know how I could sort of gather support to get a letter.
Yes, we will help you with that. We know of that area. We've actually tried to advocate. There is a flashing beacon that is funded and scheduled to be installed, that keeps moving, but that is approved and we're just waiting for the installation. We are aware several years ago, there was a skateboarder that lost his life. And my kids go to Ocean Beach, so it's my transit. That's how I get to and from Ocean Beach Elementary. And so there's a lot of families in that area. And we did recommend a stop sign, I believe, at some of those streets, but it got killed at the main board meeting. And so what I think we need to do is, in the past, what we do is if we can bring it to next month's meeting, a request to override the city council policy and request the city review to install stop signs at either, we'll give them the choice, right? At either Etiwanda or Bolinas. You know, we are aware of the traffic issues. And again, as you ascend down, people speed up. It's very clear, people do. And even if you're not noticing it, it's very easy to accelerate. And so what we've done in the past, which does help, is that go to your neighbors and say, hey, and you have my email, Ben, have them put in the subject line, stop sign for those two streets, and say, and have them send me just like a paragraph of what they want to see or their experience. And then what we do is we can bring it to the traffic committee next month, hopefully get a recommendation to vote and approve it. We'll send it to our main board at the main board meeting, and then they vote, and hopefully it'll get approved. But what I found that's been very helpful in the past to get their approval, because people sometimes just don't agree with bike lanes or stop signs, is that bringing your neighbors and having those testimonies really push the needle and help bring impact. And so if you could do that, Ben, that can really help our case. But I have your contact information. If you could, we can be in touch. But next month's meeting, we can put it as an action item for that meeting. And then we can, in the meantime, work with the neighbors, have them email their testimony, craft the letter, go through the approval process, and hopefully we can get some safer areas along that stretch of Voltaire. So thank you for being here. I know you said you had to go to work, but we can put it on as an action item for next month's meeting for sure, Ben.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'll just reach out to you offline, and yeah, I'm happy to get some neighbor involvement. So thank you guys.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ben. Take care. Have a good night at work.
Thanks. See you guys.
Bye. Well, that's encouraging because we've already brought a letter before. It got killed at the main board meeting. So I think if we can get some neighbors to show up and say, hey, we need some help along that stretch, it would be helpful for our community. Moving forward, we have our traffic and transportation spreadsheet that we've been maintaining, and everyone is on the drive and still has access to it, and you can modify it. It's a working document basically, but we can add to it, or we can go through and potentially rank a couple, prioritize some of those items for us to address this new season of traffic and transportation. I know that we had grouped up our top 5 priorities last year, and that was really helpful for us to kind of keep on track and kind of get our to-do list, our action item list dwindled down. So let's open up a discussion about anything on there that you'd like to have prioritized. I have one. I'm always like the traffic safety. I'm like, yes. The schools, we have several schools on the peninsula, and we don't have crossing guards at our schools, and there's many opportunities for traffic safety, whether it's with markings, facilities around the parameter of our schools. And I'd like to potentially address, we've done Ocean Beach Elementary. I've done that through OB Planning Board. I'd like to do it for like the high school or some of the other campuses around the peninsula, because as we all see around pickup and drop off time, it gets quite hectic. Right. Sorry about that. I've got a little kid. Chris, I'm on a call, please. Any other recommendations or things that we need to prioritize?
Not yet, Mandy. I just need to relook at the list again.
Yeah, and you know what, we can table, this is always, I always have this as.
Too, Mandy. I'm
Oh,
to
go
blame
ahead.
too, Mandy. I need more time.
Okay, let's bring this back for next meeting. Because it's always, like I said, I always have it as an action item. We can always work on it or make a, a decision from it. So let's go through, look at it, maybe add some items if it needs to be refreshed. And then come prepared for next meeting for us to be ready to rank it and pick out our top 5 that we can work on this season of traffic and transportation. So I really do appreciate you all being here. Matt, I see you were able to join us. Welcome. Good things we did. Oh, did he jump off? Oh. Well then, never mind. I take it back. No. Well, it's 7:07. If there's nothing else to discuss, we'll bring it to the board on Thursday, all these items. So thank you all for your time. The meeting's adjourned at 7:08.
Thank you, Mandy.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.